Simon. Well, today I want to talk a little bit about the relationship between David and Saul in 1st and 2nd Samuel. And I've been, reading through these books here. And, first thing that stood out was David was anointed. So while Saul was still king, right? David was anointed king. And then he not only just had to wait years, but he was running for years, fleeing for his life because Saul was jealous of him and saw him as a threat and was trying to get rid of him to remain king. And so I just want to pick up. There's a few times during this when Saul's chasing him around where David has these opportunities where he could have killed Saul. And one of them comes, first, there's an event that happens in 1 Samuel 25, where when David is going through the wilderness being chased, and he comes into the land of a man named Nabal, a rich man, and he sends some men to Nabal's men and says, we've been here and we haven't harmed any of your men. We've, done them rightly, and we are really hungry. Can you help us out? And he refuses. And David, in his anger, he wants to take justice into his own hand. So he's ready to go down and not only take vengeance against Nabal, but he's going to kill all his men, the men that work for him, the shearers, and this innocent blood. But Abigail, Nabal's wife, comes and stops him. She says, she manages without her husband knowing to get some stuff and says, for your men and all this stuff, please don't, my husband's a harsh man. So David says, oh, you've saved me from bloodshed and taking vengeance into my own hands. And then it turns out that the Lord, God hardens Nabal and he dies anyway. So God delivers justice and mercy and without all the innocent bloodshed. So David's like, oh, she saved me from bloodshed and God took the vengeance. He took justice. So it's not mine to take justice. So then in the next chapter, in 1 Samuel 26, there's another incident when they have this opportunity. They go down to David and one of his men go down into the camp, and they say, "Oh, let me drive a spear through him." And David says he's learned, right? He says, "No, it's not mine to take justice. The Lord will take justice." He could end this disaster of him running for his life and be able to go home and just feel safe or confident, and he'll probably become king right in this moment. But it says no, it's the Lord's to take justice. And then a little later, right in 2 Samuel, so the end of 1 Samuel, Saul does die in war and all his sons. And then in 2 Samuel 1, when David learns about this, you would think he's learned about Saul's death. Finally, the Lord's taken justice. You would think he would rejoice, right? He doesn't have to run anymore. He doesn't have to flee. He's going to become king. But no, he laments. He sings, he writes this lamentation, right? And says this should be taught to all the people of Judah and Israel. And yes, he's lamenting not only over Saul, but Jonathan, who was his dearest friend. But he doesn't just lament Jonathan in this lamentation, but he says, "You daughters of Israel, weep over Saul, who clothed you luxuriously in scarlet, who put ornaments of gold on your apparel. How the mighty have fallen in the midst of the battle." So he's lamenting over Saul's death, recognizing all that Saul did for Israel and for the people that he now will soon rule over. And I just wow, to be that is to mourn for his enemy like that, when I would think, if that were me, I would be dancing and singing praises, not lamentations, right? And I just was astounding. So just that idea of praying for your enemy or loving your persecutors, and that can be a very tough thing. And thinking about loving those who oppress you or praying for them. That was actually recently, we talked a little bit about that in youth one night, and one of the girls, asked, I have a question box, and that's a question that they want to talk more about. How can I pray for those who persecute me, or pray for my enemies? How can I do that? And I thought, that's something thinking about, why these people are persecuting you or why they're treating you that way. And a lot of times, there's something lacking, or if they don't know the Lord, I can pray for them because I can have compassion or like for why it is that they are doing that, and like that they don't have this security that I have, that even though they're treating me that way, that's like I'm still secure in who I am and confident in my future and my eternity, but they might not have that, and that I can grieve for that, and I can pray for them in that. Like pray that they would not, pray that they would find that and not have to lash out in these ways, or whatever it is causing. Maybe they do know the Lord. Maybe it's just something that is really been weighing on them that they're going through, and something that I did or something that they see in me just triggers that, or they wish they had it, and that emotional like wound in their life. And maybe that's what it is. So I can have compassion for that and pray for that. And so, maybe it is that David saw this. Well, he did do great things for Israel, and he was a great leader, but he just had this pride, this jealous streak that he needed to take me out, and I have compassion for that. It's a hard thing that he was wrestling through, that he felt threatened, like for him to be able to recognize that. And so, just for me and for all of us, just to step back and say, how have I been responding to, people who haven't treated me well or wronged me? And am I lamenting over them and their fate? And am I praying for them? So that's just something I wanted, a little heavy, but something I wanted to leave you with today and think about more myself. And that's all I've got. So we'll see you next time, Hillside.